What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. And starting today's videos off, we are jumping into Robin's issue number 1. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot that this comic was actually coming out. And it's because they released it on a weird day. They released it on a Sunday, which is just not typical for DC Comics. But this will be a 6-issue miniseries, bringing many of our Robins back together, having them work as one force. And so with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we pick up with this new issue, we are picking up in the park, and what we see are a bunch of robins inside of a nest, with the mother robin returning to the nest having the food for the day for the little ones. We see that one of these little robins, they fall out of the nest. Falling out of the nest, it is caught by an individual with blue eyes and a black hooded cloak. And with her catching this little bird, she throws something up into the nest. And as she begins to walk away, with individuals, civilians standing nearby talking about the red robins, talking about how there's probably 200 of them inside of this park right now that have nests built up. And in the midst of this conversation, whatever was thrown into that nest, it detonates. And with that detonation, an explosion, the tree goes up in flames, everyone is shot back, and our hooded individual walking away with her baby red robin in hand. And by her dialogue, it really seems like it's possible she could have been a robin, saying that it's not fair, it's not nice when she is kicked out of the nest, when anything is kicked out of the nest, referring to this baby bird. But we really get a feeling that this is a metaphor for herself. Now that's what's going to take us to Bloodhaven, the city that is under the protection of Nightwing. And what we have going on right now is Anarchy's disciples, all of his minions, Mr. Neg leading this charge. And what they are doing is more or less implementing all of the beliefs of Anarchy. And they are going to do that by detonating, having explosions all over the city, throwing the city into chaos, causing mass pandemonium. The goal is to bring down all of democracy. And while he is sitting here going over the plan with all of his disciples, this is where we hear the voice of Nightwing, telling them that it would be much easier if they would just go home and play Dungeons and Dragons. Now, at first, most of them are a little bit terrified. They're a little bit worried. That's Nightwing, the guardian of Bloodhaven. Who are we in comparison to him? Mr. Neg telling his men they have nothing to worry about, sending the 2 giant brutes after Nightwing. And of course, Dick Grayson, he makes very quick work of these guys, taking them out like they are absolutely nothing. From the background, we see Robin and Red Robin make their entrance. Because for this one, Nightwing, he called in everybody. He called in the big guns to take down this ring, to stop these detonations from going off. And with our Robins coming down, descending upon these guys, Mr. Neg tries to make his escape, hightailing it out of there, looking behind him, ensuring that there are no Robins in hot pursuit of him. But as he looks around, he's not looking ahead, and he gets clotheslined by a rope. This rope yanking him down to the ground, and this is where we see Spoiler. Now Spoiler reaches out with her hand and lets him know, like, you can get up, we can call this a day, you can stop with all of this shenanigans, because at this point you've already been caught. But we see Mr. Neg get up, grab one of his disciples, and have a knife to his throat. But what Mr. Neg does not recognize is that directly behind him, that is where Red Hood is. With Red Hood stepping out of the shadows with a sword in his hand, he pretends to impale this guy, really just trying to give him a really good scare. Now Red Hood, he had every intention of cutting this guy's hand off, but it appears that he has some kind of reinforced clothing. And with him making the escape, with one of the disciples having what appears to be dynamite strapped to his chest, this guy is straight up part of this cult, and so he has no problem blowing himself up for the greater good, for what Anarchy believes in. And so with the timer counting down, we see Red Hood, he throws this TNT. With Mr. Neg landing on top of it, it detonates. And Spoiler has to chime in and let the others know that they have no chance of getting the password to stop this full detonation from going off. That Red Hood just killed the guy. And so right now we have Tim Drake and Damian Wayne trying their best to figure out how to break this code, using algorithms, using everything in their arsenal to try to figure this out. Nightwing tells them that they need to take a step back. They need to relax, look at it how Batman will look at it. Try to decipher it in the best way possible. At the end of the day, these guys aren't very brilliant individuals. They're going to use something very basic. And as they sit there and think about it, they all believe that it is A standing for anarchy. And with him pressing the button, it deactivates the bomb. And with this bomb being now defused, we see Red Hood making his appearance with someone slung over his shoulder, letting them know that Mr. Neg, he was just too many pieces to carry over here. And this obviously infuriates Nightwing. And so calling in the police department, all of our Robins, they start to go off in their own direction, heading back to their cities, heading back to where they belong. But before they can get too far, this is where we see Nightwing stop them, let them know that he is not letting them get away. While he has everybody in Bloodhaven, they are going to sit down and they are going to have a dinner. Now, all of our Robins, they have all gathered together. Picking up a little bit later at our dinner, we have everyone sitting down, and Dick Grayson really wants to start going over why he wants to bring everyone together. He wants to talk to them in a more therapeutic aspect, really. And while all of our Robins, they're joking with each other, they're taking jabs at one another, we're really just seeing a great, wholesome moment. But with Dick Grayson interjecting and letting them all know that he was the first Robin. And this is an exercise. This is an exercise that Dick Grayson thinks is a really good idea to help them therapeutically. But he goes on to say that he was the first Robin. Sometimes he doesn't even remember who came up with the name Robin, if it were Batman or if it were him. Now, we have seen in the Batman and Robin line that came out last week that it was, in fact, Dick Grayson who came up with the name Robin. But he also believes that it doesn't really matter at this point. What has always mattered to him is that Batman has always done so much good, but he has always done this in the shadows. He has always done this in the dark. And so he chose to be Robin, to become the beacon of light in that darkness, to always bring Batman back from that edge. And while he used to get mad at all of the other Robins, he would get mad at them when anyone would imply that being Robin wasn't the greatest thing on the face of the earth. Because at the end of the day, everybody came to Robin in their own way. Everyone takes it in their own way and makes it their own, but saying that they are a family now. And so because of that, he wants to listen and hear every one of them out. And that's what starts us with Stephanie Brown, aka Spoiler. Now, she was Robin for only 71 days. 48 if we want to talk about the time that she wasn't suspended. But when she graduated to being Robin, it was really one of the greatest experiences of her life. Going from Spoiler to Robin, it was one of the proudest moments in her life. The daughter of a third-rate supervillain wearing the mantle of the legendary Boy Wonder of Gotham City. But then she broke the rules, and then she was never Robin again. And part of it feels like she may never be Robin again, and that's really hard on her ego. It's really hard for her to take that because she was so proud of owning and having that mantle. But she also understands she needs to not place all of her value on if she's going to get something ever again or not. Now, with Tim Drake, he asked for this. He demanded that he be Robin. He wanted this more than anything he has ever wanted in his life. But he really feels like the downside of it is he made this decision when he was such a young individual, that maybe if he were older, maybe if he'd known more about the world, maybe if he hadn't been obsessed with superheroes and flying Graysons, then maybe, just maybe, he could have had a different dream. And he has to ask himself, what do you do when you have already lived your dream? Now that's where we pick up with Damian Wayne, the cocky, the arrogant, letting them know that he was the Robin. He wasn't the first Robin. He didn't choose to be Robin. Being Robin is his birthright. Being the only actual son of Bruce Wayne. And so by virtue of his birth, it is his mantle that he is supposed to inherit. But he also understands that Robin isn't just the mantle that you want to strive for. Being Robin is the training ground, preparing all of them for eventually when Bruce Wayne does die, when one of them is going to stand up and take the mantle of Batman. And Damian Wayne, he believes wholeheartedly that individual is him. And then we pick up with Jason Todd. And he lets them know. I can feel it already. I can feel you guys saying, what's he going to say? What's bad boy Jason going to have to say? But he lets them know that he was drafted into this because he was caught stealing the hubcaps off of the Batmobile. And because of that, he got turned into a soldier in the war against crime. But like what happens to soldiers sometimes, is he got killed. Batman saying that he wasn't allowed to die, and so he was resurrected, brought back from death. But he's also not disappointed about this. He feels lucky at times. He feels like all of them are lucky at times, because nobody gets to live a life like this. The few individuals in this room and a handful of others have ever got to experience what this is like. And he thinks to himself, if he hadn't become Robin, if Batman had not taken him under his wing, he wonders where he may be. He thinks maybe he could be Kingpin. All of the Robins could be trying to take down Jason Todd right now because he could be king of the underworld. Now the conversation, it starts to get a little heated because how Jason Todd handles bad guys. Dick Grayson obviously picking up on some of these cues of what they're talking about. The situation is about to get a little bit hairy, but this is when Tim Drake's his computer goes off and it lets him know that the entire Bat system is being shut down. Everything is being put into lockdown. With Damian trying to reach out to Bruce Wayne, trying to make a phone call, he is not answering. Something is going sideways and they have no clue what is happening. And as they look over to the window, Stephanie sees a small red robin hanging out on top of the AC unit. Now at first she sees this and she thinks this has got to be a good omen. But Tim Drake lets her know, or it could mean that death is coming through the door. And that is exactly what we see. With this old big man coming through the door, Damian immediately gets in his face. But this guy, he only wants to talk to Dick Grayson, saying that he needs to speak to him immediately. And he lets Dick Grayson know that they have it all, with him getting Dick Grayson's name from them and being able to make his escape. He rushed over and got here as soon as he possibly could, saying that somebody got him out of Blackgate. They swept all of them up, the Garzonas, the Innocente Creep, Shadid Girl. And as these names are being listed, our Robins recognize these names. Matt Shahid is the assassin called Scarab. Joseph Garzone is a former ambassador. And then we have Obichman. Each one of these individuals were from the very first cases these Robins ever took on. Batman referred to these as their gauntlets, and that would make this individual sitting in their room Delcane. But he lets them know that none of that matters right now, because they need to listen, and they need to listen good. What they have planned for all of the Robins, it is the most evil thing that he could ever think of, and that's why he wanted no part of this plan. That's why he hurried, he made his escape to try and warn Dick Grayson. And as he is about to tell us, this is when a bullet comes through the window and hits him directly in the back of the head. And all of our Robins, they jump into high gear, saying to scour the rooftops to find the shooter. And as our Robins head out, we see that little red robin that was perched on the window make its way over to a young woman, the same one we saw from the park, currently dressed up as a robin, saying that she was mad she wasn't invited, insinuating that she was the very first Robin. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up with our Robin that we don't really know, claiming to be the first Robin. Obviously she's evil, obviously she's a bad guy. She just murdered this guy in Dick Grayson's apartment. And by the time our Robins had jumped into action, our assassin had already fled, jumping down to ground level and blending in with all of the other churchgoers that are currently going in and out of churches. And so with our Robins not having any lead on where to go next, they go to the next place they know where they can get some leads. And that place is the Batcave, with Damian, Tim, and Jason all showing up to try to convince Batman to use the computer, to use the Bat computer to try to find out who this individual is, what their end goal is, and how they can bring them down. But in doing this, in asking this question, Batman snaps at them in anger, yelling no at them and telling them that someone has breached this network. Despite all of his protocols, despite all of the advanced security he has on this system, someone has broken into it. Not sure if it has been weeks or days or whatever the case may be. Not sure how far the attacker got or what information was taken, saying that this attack may seem personal, but they have no idea who this might be. This could be anyone from Prometheus to Brainiac. And so for now, he is asking all of them to stand down, to not pursue this case any further, at least until he knows who they are up against. And this is when he turns to Tim Drake and tells him that he needs a promise, because both Damian and Jason, they would lie about this. Tim Drake, on the other hand, when he makes a promise like this, he is someone that is going to keep it. But before he even gets that opportunity, we have Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing, come sliding down, and he lets him know that they will not be investigating this any further. Also letting him know that they will lay low like he is asking, or at least as low as someone can lie when you are a bunch of Robins and a previous circus performer. And with Batman going ahead and taking off, linking up with Cyborg at the Hall of Justice, making sure that the League's mainframe had not been tapped into. And when he goes to make his exit, he has to ask the question, why were all you guys together in the first place? Now, not letting Batman in on their little Robin get-together, this is something that they want to keep just to themselves. Now, of course, all of the other Robins, they are absolutely livid that Dick Grayson just sidelined them from this entire investigation. As he waves goodbye to Batman, he lets all of them know that he will meet them in the back delivery bay. Stephanie will be waiting to take them out with the spoiler mobile, because it is the only vehicle they have between them that Bruce Wayne cannot track. Meanwhile, we are picking up at an undisclosed location, and this is where we have our villainous Robin, and she is currently having a bunch of individuals, low-end villains, working on her side. Now, these guys are absolutely concerned that they are going to be punished for letting Lou escape. But at the end of the day, it all worked out in her favor. And so there is no punishment for them. They will only be rewarded. And while she is rewarding them, she taps into her computer and she opens the files named Gauntlets. And so what is happening here, it is appearing that our little villainous Robin here has access to the Bat computer, or at least had access to the Bat computer, enough to get all of the information on all of the Robins that have ever worked under Batman. And so what this tells me is this isn't necessarily the first Robin. This is just a crazy person who believes they should have been the first Robin. They should be the only Robin, so on and so forth. And now they are going over all of the gauntlets of each one of our Robins, trying to figure out their weaknesses, trying to figure out their strengths, in an effort to be able to defeat them all. And so, picking up with our Robins, we are picking up with all of them piling in to a minivan. Now, of course, this isn't anything like the Batmobile. The spoiler mobile is simply just a regular car, a regular minivan, one that Batman has no taps on. And as everyone is piling into the car, Damian is letting Dick know how awesome it was that he actually lied to Batman, how he disobeyed a direct order. Even Jason jumps in, calling him Clayface because it is so out of character for him to do something like that. But Dick Grayson, he lets us know that he was able to read Bruce. Even through the mask, he could tell that Bruce Wayne was scared. And when he is scared, he lashes out in anger. And if their job is to keep Batman from falling into darkness, Batman is going to need their help, whether he likes it or not. Now, this is when we go over the first gauntlet. The first gauntlet being Dick Grayson. Robin was given the task of evading Batman for a single night in Gotham City for 6 hours. In the midst of all of this, Robin witnessed a gangland murder perpetrated by a group of enforcers that were led by Lou. And with Robin engaging alone, he came into possession of evidence that made him a target for the boss. Robin, determined to stay in the game, he did not let Batman know, instead leaving clues behind to help him solve the case. And so the assessment is that Dick Grayson, aka this Robin, is dutiful and obedient, but will always choose his heart over the letter of the law. Now, our Robins are trying to piece together any information they can get. Before the Bloodhaven Police Department was able to come in and take Lou's body, Dick Grayson was able to go through his pockets and he found something that gives them a clue on the next direction that they are going to go. Now, Jason Todd is the one that really solves this clue. From his days working in the underground, from his days being around all of the villains, he leads them to a mortuary in Gotham that also used to act as a chop shop, and it specialized in hard to find items. That is, at least before they had all gotten busted. And that'll bring us to gauntlet number 2, Jason Todd. Now, on Jason's first patrol as Robin, he responded to a scream from a downtown penthouse suite. Robin had discovered Gloria Stanson. Frightened and hurt, he brought her in, and the attacker was Felipe Garzonas. Bringing him in for questioning, this is when it was discovered that he is the son of Jose Garzonas, ambassador who was able to make some calls and get all of the charges dropped. And so, with Gloria absolutely terrified of the repercussions that might be coming her way, she ends up killing herself. With Robin confronting Felipe, that is where Felipe had fallen to his death. Robin insisting that it was an accident. Evidence supports the contrary belief. And so the assessment is, despite new circumstances, Robin's view of everything, especially justice, is formed by his experience on the streets. Now, picking up with our Robins, they are making their way into the cemetery. As they make their way in here, Stephanie Brown, aka Spoiler, is having a conversation with Tim Drake, letting her know that she is really concerned about the things that had happened in City Hall, with the devotee of anarchy coming in and threatening to be a suicide bomber, hoping that she was able to reach this individual, hoping she was able to reach out and stop this from happening. But what she saw was more than anything devotion to a cause. Now, Stephanie Brown was able to stop her, but this has been concerning her ever since it happened. Now, Tim Drake lets her know that the DOA, they recruit the most susceptible individuals by giving them a friendly face. It started out as a group of individuals doing puppy larceny on message boards, and it grew into what it is currently today. Now, of course, this is something that Tim Drake is going to know, being the computer genius that he is. Now, Tim Drake, he is a very unique Robin, because after Jason Todd, he insisted that he become the new Robin. And it didn't take long for his parents to eventually end up kidnapped by Innocente, the crime lord known as Obia Man. Now, Batman was able to catch this individual and have him imprisoned for his crimes. But when Batman was imprisoned by the Scarecrow, it was Tim Drake who was able to free them. That was the day that he was reborn. That was the day he recognized that he was no longer a kid. And of course, picking back up with our Robins, they are currently looking around the cemetery for any kind of clue on what they should be looking for. And as they look around, Spoiler accidentally triggers a booby trap. Triggering this booby trap, Dick Grayson tells everyone that they need to be careful, Damian chiming in, saying that Spoiler should probably go home considering she lacks any of the actual formal training that any of the other Robins have. And of course she takes offense to this, with Dick Grayson just currently breaking the rules, and now she breaks the rules and nobody cheers for her. She thinks this is a double standard, but the reality is she could have got very hurt here. And Damian isn't wrong. Spoiler, she may be awesome, Stephanie Brown may be a dope Robin, but at the end of the day, in comparison to all of the other Robins, she is just not on the same level. And that'll take us to gauntlet number 4, which will be Stephanie Brown. Now, first meeting Stephanie Brown, she tried to spoil the plans of her father, the criminal known as Cluemaster. And when an assassin named Matt Shaddid, aka Scarab, had targeted suspected Robins, it was her and Batman who went to take him down. And in this, Stephanie ends up saving Batman's life by disobeying orders and not staying out of the way. And so the assessment for her is that it's not so much Stephanie is quick to break the rules, as that her actions brought into sharp focus the difference between her and all of the other Robins. She isn't getting revenge for her parents, she is getting revenge against them. Now, as our Robins begin to investigate a building that is in the cemetery, it appears that there are 4 individuals. These 4 individuals being the ones that were at the gauntlets, the ones that made our Robins into who they are. Now, Stephanie has to ask the question, why isn't Damian's guy in there? Why doesn't Damian have a gauntlet victim who is currently locked up? And that is because Spoiler doesn't have access to all of the information, not like everyone else does. And so because of that, she does not know that Damian's gauntlet was in fact Tim Drake. And that will take us to gauntlet number 5. Batman has a son, and being raised by Talia al Ghul, being the grandson to Ra's al Ghul, trained to be an assassin, he had no intention of allowing Damian to fight by his side, much less as a Robin, but he demanded it. And when he was away, Damian had attacked Tim Drake. With no plan to test him, Damian demanded the test. And in this test, he beat the crap out of Tim Drake. And so the assessment for him is, in that moment, his every instinct must have been screaming for him to finish the job, to end his rival's life. Now, was this an act of mercy that he did not do it? Or was it a plan to infiltrate Batman and his entire organization? Now, with our Robins getting closer to this facility, this is where they run into Giggles and Guffa, Kitten, Chick, and Honeysuckle, the low-time villains that are working for our villainous Robin. They're more than anything wannabe villains, sidekicks that just do the bidding of anybody who can boss them around. The junior super criminals, if you will. And without wasting any time, our Robins go in to start cracking some skulls. And as this fight is getting underway, we see 2 of them. They run into a building. Running into this building, Jason Todd is in hot pursuit behind them. With him running in, kicking down the door, he sees these 2 individuals talking about how they have a huge affection for the Clown Prince, aka the Joker. They did everything they could to get close to him, endured things to hear his laugh. But when you love something so much, sometimes you just want to become it. And we see the 2 of them, they transform themselves into 2 versions of the Joker. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are getting some narration from Nightwing and Batman, with Nightwing currently giving a sit rep to Batman, letting him know what transpired at this cemetery. Now, at first, our Robins, they believed that they were just going against the junior super criminals. That is, until they mysteriously began to transform. And with this transformation, we start to see them become Penguin, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and 2 Jokers, having absolutely no idea what they are looking at. It wasn't until later that they found out that this is more like a hard light construct. Imagine hard light Halloween costumes. That is what they have done to themselves here. But the only thing that the Robins knew for 100% certainty is that there were hostages, ones that needed rescuing. And though these aren't necessarily the best of hostages, because these hostages are all villains. Villains that our Robins all win against in their first gauntlets. And the gauntlets, they were just tests. Testing out to see if each Robin was capable of living up to the mantle. Each of them going through their own individual gauntlet throughout the years. And so without wasting any time, they jump into the fight. But we quickly learn that these guys are no match for our Robins. Though they give some good punches, they give some good hits. The reality is, our Robins have been through this stuff 1,000 times over, and these copycats are nothing in comparison to the real things. But as they are fighting these guys, they are learning that they know information that they probably shouldn't know. Information like throwing out one-liners. One-liners maybe Joker had said to Batman at some point in time, or Joker had said to Red Hood right before he killed him. You know, all of these things that they probably shouldn't know. The information you would only know if you were actually there. But this is when Nightwing, he really pieces it together and he figures out that they are wearing the information. Their suits are made out of every analysis that Batman has ever put into his system. Every one of the criminal's skills, all of their strengths, all of their weaknesses. It is all the memories of who Batman villains are. Every memory Batman has ever had about these villains. And that same data is what prepped them to fight the children of Batman. Recognizing the only way to take these guys down is if they fight them without using anything Batman has ever taught them. Use anything else but that. And once they decide to do that, we see the tables shift in a drastic way. Any kind of fight that they were able to put up against our Robins, it is quickly dismantled. These guys are knocked down, thrown to the ground. And as all of them begin to run away, one of them stays behind. One of the super criminals stays behind, and he tries to gather as much energy as he can, injecting himself with whatever this substance is. It doesn't really specify what it is, but this is what helps them create this hard-like costume. And with him taking this into his body, all of the others, they feel the power draining from them, and it's all absorbed into the one super criminal, taking the powers of every single one of them. Damian walks up to him and in one single punch takes down all of Batman's rogues. Now we know that's obviously not the case, but it's a good little fun joke. This guy pretending that he's going to be all of these villains, and Damian walks up and knocks him out in one single punch. And so, now with them all defeated, they have to try to rescue the hostages. The only issue is, inside of this place is a death trap, because the juniors had lined this place with enough gas to knock out anybody. And if they stay in there long enough, they are going to end up dying. And so the Robins, they try with great effort to try to open this place up. Nightwing screaming out commands to all of the Robins, letting them know where they should go, how they're gonna solve this, and what their best options are. But in the midst of this, our Red Robin, our Tim Drake, he lets it be known that he has no intention of saving them. You're talking about people that kidnapped his parents, poisoned them, laughing as they died. His father losing complete use of his legs. His mother dying in agony as his father had to watch. One of them murdered children. Cartels have destroyed thousands of lives. And so he tells Nightwing, if we just don't save them and they die by asphyxiation, then we aren't murdering them, we just didn't save them. Now at this point, Damian, he firmly believes that Tim Drake is making fun of him. Like, great impression of me, haha, real funny joke. But the others chime in and they let him know, like, this isn't actually a joke. I'm pretty sure that he is being serious. And Nightwing, he tries to settle down this conversation, but Tim Drake, he doesn't want to hear it. Because to him, this is growing up. This is what it means to grow up and recognize that not everyone needs saving. Now, obviously, everyone's like, this isn't you. This isn't the Tim Drake that we know. But the truth of the matter is this is Tim Drake past his boiling point. And he is furious right now because everyone has gotten some kind of revenge. Red Hood was able to get his revenge. No one says a thing about it because he grew up on the streets, because he was a crook for a while. Or Damien not even having someone in that room because his freaking gauntlet was Tim Drake. He had almost killed him, but because he didn't, he passed Batman's test. And telling Tim Drake that day, Damien let him know that you would never be Robin because you are soft. But now looking at him today, that is simply not the case. And he lets all of the other Robins know that if you attempt to save them, I will stop you. And in that moment, Jason, he wastes no time going up to him and knocking Tim Drake straight on his butt. With Tim Drake knocked out on the ground, the rest of our heroes, they go to save the hostages. With the GCPD showing up and picking up all of the criminals. The junior super criminals, they were really just trying to prove themselves. Somehow being able to steal whatever information is on the Bat computer. Whatever they were going to become, that is no longer going to happen. Because after everything they went through, every single one of them are now in a coma. The doctors at Gotham General, they don't even know where to start with this. But as it stands, the Bat computer, everything is back online. Everything is now protected. The biggest issue is all of our Robins, they have now gone their separate ways. Red Robin taking off during everything going on. And so with Batman getting this entire sit rep, he asks if there is anything else. And this is where Nightwing, he kind of loses it. He snaps on Batman, saying, "What do you mean, is there anything else? I just told you that a bunch of your Robins, they are broken up right now. None of them are connecting, none of them want to talk to one another. And as it stands, Tim Drake is out there, and we have no clue where he is. These are your Robins, these are your children." And Batman, he had asked them, prior to him running off to the satellite, what they were doing, why all the Robins were meeting up and having this little group meeting. What they wanted to know, after everything that they had all been through, after everything that they had learned, if they thought being a partner to Batman was actually a worthy experiment, if being Robin was actually a good thing. But at that cemetery, every single one of them Robins, they learned that being Robin, being his sidekick, it was never a good thing. And with him walking out of the room, Batman, he doesn't say anything, but once he leaves, Batman, he just puts his head in his hand because he knows he has failed and he doesn't know how to approach this situation. He doesn't know how to approach all of his Robins and tell them of all the mistakes that he has made through the years and how he is sorry for them. And so picking up later on that evening, we see an individual robbing someone else in this alley. And with Tim Drake showing up on the scene, the guy pleads for some kind of help, only for Tim Drake to get out of here, jump up through a window, and getting into the building, getting into the warehouse. We find out that this is in fact not Tim Drake. Tim Drake has been tied up inside of this building, and this is the Robin, the one from the beginning, the one that says she was the first, that she went through Gauntlet Zero, but she failed. And now she plans on having her revenge by dividing and conquering the Robins. With all of them scattered out now, there is nobody to come and save Red Robin. Alright gang, so as we dive into issue 4, right off the bat, I'm going to say that this issue really has brought some more life to this comic. Because after the first 3 issues, while it seemed interesting, this whole Jenny Wren pretending to be the first Robin, it really kind of threw me off. But as this one comes to an end, I am really starting to like this line, and I'm really looking forward to what happens next. And this story, it picks us up with all of our Robins in their individual cities, trying to track down Anarchy, believing that the devotees of Anarchy have been behind everything going on, believing that Anarchy has been behind the scenes manipulating every situation. And right now, Anarchy is running scared. because he has every one of the Bat Kids coming after him. And so while Anarchy is running scared, he does notice that one of the Robins are missing, the one known as Red Robin. Because Red Robin, he is currently tied up because of Jenny Wren. She has been pretending this whole time to be Tim Drake while he has been kidnapped in this location. She is the one that went off on all of the other Robins. The goal was to divide and conquer. But we see Tim Drake, he is currently tied up and he looks drugged. He looks a little rough. He looks like he has been beaten up. But while Jenny Wren is away, he takes this opportunity to get over to the computer and he sends out a message. And he does this in the hopes of bringing the entire Bat family down upon her head. And as he gets this message sent off, this is where we see Jenny Wren walk into the room and she knocks him for a loop. And for Tim Drake, he is trying to piece together who she is. Not really having a lot of information, the only thing that he has really gotten from her is that her name is Jenny Wren, naming herself after an old British nursery rhyme. And so, with Tim Drake trying to keep consciousness, that's where we pick up in the sub-sewers of Gotham and Bloodhaven. Because down here, we have old railroad tracks that connect the two cities to one another. And this is where Anarchy is trying to make his getaway, going from one city to the next. Using these rail systems, he ends up finding two of the Robins. And with the arrival of Damian and Dick Grayson, this is where we see Red Hood as well. All of our Robins, they have been tracking down Anarchy, and they have all come to this one location, with them hot on his trail. They meet in a subsection. This subsection, there is 3 barrels lying in the middle of the room. Anarchy hits the button, and we see multiple Anarchy start popping up from all of these barrels. And this is where we see all of our Robins, they attack without any remorse, without any hesitation. We are seeing a more brutal side of all of our Robins. And we see the 3 of them easily dispatch all of these decoys as well as Anarchy. But this is where we get the arrival of Spoiler. And Spoiler, she brings all of this to an end, telling Anarchy that he needs to make a run for it, because right now she is about to have a discussion with all of her brothers. Of course, our Robins, they're asking what is going on, because she threw a kind of concussion grenade into the room to throw all of them off, giving Anarchy the opportunity to run away and her to have a heart-to-heart with all of them, letting them know that they all went too far. That when they first arrived, they had no idea that these decoys were actually people. And with you guys going off like that, you had no remorse. You held back with zero restraint. But the truth of the matter is Anarchy has been telling them this entire time that he is not responsible for whatever happened. And Spoiler, she has evidence to prove that Anarchy is not lying to them. But both Nightwing and Red Hood, they don't want to hear anything. What they want to do is go and track down Anarchy to find him and make him answer for everything that they think he has done so far. And as they begin to walk off, this is where Damian Wayne, he begins cackling. He begins laughing hysterically. And Damian lets them know that Anarchy, he represented an idea. He is a manipulator, a bad influencer. They saw the DOA members ruined by his teachings, and so they lashed out. They ran headfirst without even looking, punching anything in their way. Because ever since that night in the cemetery, ever since Tim Drake, he had gone off on all of them, they have all been wondering deep down inside if they have served as a poor role model, asking if their life has been a lie up to this point, questioning every single action and everything that they have ever done, wondering if they put a stain on the legacy. And Damian, he knows they have been asking these questions because he has been asking himself the same thing. But while they have been sitting here questioning everything they do because Tim Drake brought their morality into question, the question they should be asking is, where is Tim Drake? And so with everyone coming to the agreement that they are going to sit down and they are going to hear Steph out, they're going to do this back at Nightwing's apartment. Having a new air conditioner, he wants to get out of the heat, he wants to sit down, he wants to relax just for a second while they go over whatever new evidence is going to be brought to them. And so getting to Dick Grayson's apartment, this is where they start going over the evidence that she has. Because after that night, she decided to go to Lydia, the girl from the Anarchies, trying to figure out any kind of information that she might be able to get, with her telling Spoiler that Mr. Nag had helped her see the light, and that she had no idea who Spoiler was, thinking maybe that this was the advice of some lawyer telling her that she shouldn't give up any information. The truth is that there is something in her eyes. There is a legitimate light in her eyes, and for some reason she does not remember Spoiler, even though Spoiler hit her in the face with a freaking staff. And right before the guards had come in, Lydia asked the question if she won, with Spoiler going back to Lydia's apartment to try to find any kind of evidence that could help answer all of these questions. And what she found inside of a stuffed animal was something that it was addressed to Mr. Nag. Inside this box, there were 4 drives. And what we learn is that before Cormac Dodge had died, he was working on an immense gaming platform. And that platform, it included implanted narratives. That is what these 4 drives are. And so we start to learn that Anarchy, he wasn't controlling all of his disciples. It was Mr. Nag. He was literally controlling them by using these devices, implanting a chip into their cerebral cortexes. And so Lydia literally thought that she was playing a game. The junior criminals, they believed they were actually the villains that they were betraying. And that is because they had Batman's records of the entire profiles of every single one of them. And so this is like in-depth research to be able to put into this video game. Because of how technical and specific Batman can be, it made this video game sequence seem almost real. And implanted with these narratives and having a physical escape, these two things mixed together, what they have created is essentially Sword Art Online. But as they look at these drives, they know that someone is trying to get them to play along. They know it's not Mr. Nag, but they don't know who is quite responsible for everything that is transpiring up to this point. The only thing they do know is that it's not Anarchy, but with there being 4 drives here, it appears that somebody wants them to play. And Spoiler, she believes that the prize is going to be finding out where Tim Drake is. And so as they are beginning to uncover all of this information, they are quickly realizing whoever is doing this is personal. It has something to do with the Robins, not sure why, not sure who would do this. But if someone wants them to play this game, Nightwing is 100% on board, taking the drive and flashing the light into his eyes. We see Nightwing drop down to his knees, and he has entered the game. And picking us up inside the Batcave, we have seen Batman, he's been trying to work solo, trying to solve whoever has been hacking into his system, with the Robins not really wanting to work with him and everyone else is currently preoccupied. Batman believes that he needs to solve this all on his own, more specifically because Cormac Dodge is somehow involved in all of this. Believed to be dead, Batman doesn't think so, believing that the escape artist has something to do with everything going on. He is going to go in and he is going to do this all on his own. And that is where we pick up with Tim Drake and Jenny Wren. And at this point, Tim Drake has finally started to piece together what is going on. He knows that he is part of a game. He knows that is why he is still alive. He knows that she is the one that hacked into the Batcomputer. She had used all of their gauntlets against them. But he knows that there is something more that she wasn't able to get. Something on the Batcomputer that she is needing access to. She also knows that Tim Drake is the one that created backdoors to the system. And so if anyone can hack into the Batcomputer, it is Tim Drake. But he is letting her know that he has no intention of ever helping her out, with Jenny Wren letting him know that he already did. Days ago, when he thought he was sending a message to all of his friends, he in fact was already inside of this game. Because that's the thing about this game. Sometimes you don't even know that you are in fact playing a game. And this is where we pick up with Nightwing. And Nightwing, he is currently a spy, going by the alias of Agent 37, waking up from what he believed to be a dream. It looks like they were about to take out someone, sitting in a hotel room, having a sniper rifle, getting ready to take the shot. As we dive into issue number 5, we are picking up with Jenny Wren, stuck inside his virtual prison. What this is the best life he could have ever lived. He is now a monk, living at this Buddhist temple. He is seeking enlightenment. As he tries to seek this inner peace, that is when we are taken to San Francisco. As they are trying to take down an individual known as Hive, we find out this spoiler is in charge of the Justice League. She is their leader. And so while she guides all of the Titans, we are taken to Gotham Raceway. This is where Jason Todd is a race car driver, one of the best that have ever existed. And all of his winnings, they are all going to a charity under his mother's name to help people fight addiction. Taking us to Markovia, we pick up with Dick Grayson, because Dick Grayson is Agent 37. He is a super spy that is trying to save the world. With Dick Grayson completing one of his missions, this is when he sees a giant Robin sigil popping up directly in front of him, saying 100 points and making a bing sound. He has no idea what to make of this thing, but he knows that this was no delusion. This is no hypnosis. This was as real as his own hand. With it continuously popping up in front of him, he hasn't really pieced together what this means yet, but he knows that it is very much real. As he leaves his partner, he goes downstairs, heads down an alleyway, and then Dick Grayson disappears. Taking us over to Gotham City, we're picking up with Batman. He has been working solo this entire time, trying to track down what's been going on. But for Batman, everything has led him to Cormac Dodge, the escape artist. Being able to find Dodge's secret location, he goes inside of this place, only to be met with a giant razor-sharp clawed white construct, known as a Gru. This is one of the first things the escape artist had ever created. A very twisted homage to early computer day games. As he takes this giant beast down, the Bat computer lets him know that Cormac Dodge had been seen in Europe. And so Batman, he heads out and he goes directly for where he might be. Picking back up with Jenny Wren, we have Spoiler and Jason Todd who have grabbed hold of him, and they're trying to break him out of this, to try to have him understand that this is all a fabricated reality. Of course, Damian thinks that these guys are sent by his grandfather to bring him back to the League of Assassins. As Dick Grayson's face turns into a swirl, Damian starts to remember the light, remember the game, remember plugging themselves in at Dick Grayson's apartment. This is all for Operation Redbreast. And as they all start to divulge what stories they have been living, Spoiler believes that this is what Batman would think of their lives if they never became Robins. Because all of this is derived from the Bat computer. As they start to come to this realization, what they are seeing is that Batman believes they would have had great lives had it not been them being Robins. As they start to take this information in, Dick Grayson, he chimes in and has a little thought on this. He doesn't think this is what Batman believes. Whoever is manipulating us, whoever is doing everything on this Bat computer with our minds, with this game, they are the ones doing this. And while the others, they believe that he is standing up for Batman, of course, no matter what the case, Dick Grayson doesn't feel that way. What he believes is that Tim Drake is giving them the way out. All of these Robin signals that keep popping up, this is showing them they are going in the right direction. This is how they beat the game. Every time they make the right choice, they take the right path, he keeps seeing this. As the others come to this realization, this is where a little red bird comes to them. Damian being player 2, Spoiler and Jason Todd being players 3 and 4. Now they really know how to play this game. They know how to beat this game. And so as each of our heroes, they head off to go beat their games, we are taken to Europe, in London specifically, at Beddington Park, hoping to find any clue of Dodge. What happened here 6 days ago, there was an explosion, completely unrelated to Dodge. 5 people had been wounded, and 1 person had been killed. Believing that Dodge had no reason to kill innocent lives, no matter what partners he had in this side of the world, As Batman examines this memorial, this is where he sees it. This is where he sees AJ. And then it immediately becomes clear what this is all about. It's about partners, wards, sons, daughters. Recognizing he's been playing this game all wrong, that's when we're taken to Dick Grayson's apartment, with all of them waking up from their nightmarish life. That's because the path that they went down, it was vastly different than what we previously saw. Spoiler led the Teen Titans against the Justice League. As they lost this fight, no one would ever trust her again. Damian grew frustrated with trying to find enlightenment, and he eventually went back to do his family business. Jason Todd couldn't keep his racing on the track, eventually getting caught up in street races. He eventually gets pinched and goes to jail. Dick Grayson, he completely loses himself, succumbing to mental health issues. He is no longer any good to anybody. And what Dick Grayson really derives from this is that Batman is there to help them as much as they are there to help him. They all help catch each other when they're about to fall. Not only that, this is what happens when the Robins don't have each other. When this family is not together, this is the outcome of their lives. As Jason Todd says these words, they get a congratulations that they have won. The objectives have been completed, and now they have unlocked Gauntlet 0. Alright gang, so we are picking up with Batman at 25,000 feet. Batman believing that Cormac Dodge has been playing a game with all of the Robins. And he also believes that now he is going in here all by himself without any of their help, with every one of his children in danger. He has to remind himself to stay in the light. As we jump over to Bloodhaven, we are picking up with all of the Robins who have just come out of this virtual reality video game, currently all having a discussion about Gauntlet 0. This is their reward for beating the game. A little bit hesitant on wanting to go find this out because this could change everything they think about Batman and what they think about Robin. But regardless, Tim Drake is the one who led them all here, being stuck inside of this computer because of Jenny Wren. There is no question about this. This is the only way that they can save the Red Robin. And so as they join hands together, they claim Gauntlet 0. As Batman thinks back about all of this time that he had with the escape artist, taking him on when he was still a very young vigilante. Batman would win some, the escape artist would win some. And in this, he knew that he needed some kind of ally. That ally just so happened to be Anita Jean. The escape artist had met her at the park in London. She was able to hack into his laptop using a decade-old cell phone found in a garbage bin to do so. And so the escape artist, he brought her in under his wing. And that's when Batman was able to find his in. Because after working for the escape artist, he would not allow her to have any friends. Being cut off from all society and all people, Batman used her as an insider, promising to take down the escape artist if she were to just help him take him down, and that he would get her whatever she wanted. Wanting most in the world is a wren. A simple pet bird. The two of them working together, they were able to bring him down. And when he was defeated, Jenny picked up that gun and she shot the escape artist right in the freaking head. The truth of the matter, the escape artist, he had mutually assured destruction. He knew who Bruce Wayne was. He threatened to tell the world about this unless Batman let him go. Jenny did the only thing she thought was possible to save both Batman and remove the escape artist. As this building had caught on fire, we see Jenny, she falls from the rail, tears in her eyes because of the disappointment from Batman. Bruce Wayne thought that he lost her on this day, believing ever since then that both the escape artist and Jenny Wren had died in that building. This is Gauntlet 0. This is why Jenny Wren hates Batman so much. She believes that Batman let her fall. Now, while Tim Drake is here in a hologram projection, this is not actually him. This is a pre-recorded message to get out to his brothers and sisters. The truth of the matter, the escape artist could never come up with everything that they have seen so far, letting it be known that Batman is the one running into a trap. He doesn't know it yet, but Jenny Wren, she is behind everything. Taking us over to Batman, he is crashing into this party, breaking into the building where he believes the escape artist is at. As soon as he gets inside, he is immediately attacked by all of these light constructs, making his way down a couple of layers. This is where he runs into the escape artist. And around the room, we see the Robins that are all more or less crucified to the wall. Batman, seeing this, he absolutely loses it. He goes in on the escape artist, he starts wailing on him, and he doesn't stop. Now, this is where we see the Robins, they jump into action, using their grappling hooks and getting up there as quickly as possible. The escape artist, or at least what Batman believes to be the escape artist, is in fact Tim Drake. Batman has been beating the crap out of Tim Drake, believing it's the escape artist who has killed all of the Robins. The truth is, Jenny Wren had drugged Batman with the SKP tech, so the only thing that he sees is what Jenny Wren wants him to see. Even as all of the Robins are trying to pull Batman off of Tim Drake, he is still completely oblivious to all of this. Jenny Wren coming in out of left field, her obviously upset that they just ruined all of her plans. But all of this wasn't just about the Robins without Batman. It is also about who he is without all of them. The person that Bruce Wayne, that Batman would be if he did not have that beacon of light, if he did not have the Robins by his side. Nightwing being the one to try to hold off Batman. The rest of them are still trying to take on Jenny Wren. And while Dick has been trying with his best effort to take him on one-on-one, Nightwing is recognizing that brute force isn't going to be the way to do this. While Bruce Wayne may believe that he is fighting some kind of light construct monster, he hears it start to speak, talking about the day that Robin was born. It was before the Dick Grayson gauntlet. They were in the Batcave and he said something to the effect of rethinking the Yellow Cape. Now, of course, Dick Grayson was unwilling to do so, these being the colors of his parents when they were in the circus together. Not only that, he didn't want Batman to lose him when Robin gets too far ahead. He was just an overconfident little punk. Batman wasn't even sure if it was a good idea to bring a Robin or sidekick on at the time. Asking what he would call himself, he said Robin. This had put Batman into some kind of pause. It reminded him of Jenny Wren and of the Robin poem the moment before she jumped. And while he may not be a religious man, this is one heck of a coincidence. This helps Bruce Wayne recognize that this is Dick Grayson. With her whole system coming down, she is exposed holding her staff in hand, letting it be known that she should have had a home. She should have been the first Robin. She should have had a father. But this whole time, she has believed that Bruce Wayne thought she was too broken, that she wasn't worth the fight. And of course, Bruce Wayne, this has weighed on his heart heavy after all of these years. The truth is, he was afraid that Jenny Wren was too much like him, and that if he trained someone that was exactly like him, he might not be able to break the cycle of violence. The truth is, she didn't fail Gauntlet Zero. Batman did, unwilling to hear anything that they have to say. With a storm moving in, she is a calling card for a lightning bolt. Luckily, we see Jason Todd jump in, grab her before she is actually struck by lightning, being a beacon for the lightning because of all the static electricity that she'd been building up. Jason Todd saving her in the nick of time, but definitely getting burned himself. With Jenny Wren now being saved, we pick up a couple days later and all of our Robins are sitting down, but they're not gonna sit down to talk about Robin. They are sitting down just to be a family, to be there for one another and talk about what interests them. But they're not doing this alone. Coming through the front door, we have Bruce Wayne. They are all sitting down as a family, really doing what they should have been doing the entire time. And off to the side, we see a conversation between Jason Todd and Bruce Wayne. And there has been something going on with Jason. That something is he has been thinking that maybe all of this was a setup, that Bruce Wayne had planned all of this to happen. This was a test to see if all of the Robins could truly come together without Batman. Part of Jason believes that all of this mission for all the Robins, was truly just Gauntlet 6. But Bruce Wayne, he doesn't say a single word. He just walks away from Jason, and that is the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. So for me, when I first got into this series, I was a little bit skeptical. I thought they were going to try to replace the idea that Robin was the first Robin. And I think they pretty much solidified that that's not the case. That Robin is the one that came up with the name Robin. He came up with the costume, all of that jazz. Jenny Wren was someone that Batman more or less manipulated into working as his sidekick for a temporary amount of time. This was just so he could take down the escape artist. And while she really did want to be his sidekick, wanted a father figure, Batman was just too afraid to bring her on. And the girl did fall down a freaking stairwell, so you can't really blame Batman for thinking that she had died at that point in time. Now, he definitely should have gone and checked it and figured something out. Maybe found an autopsy, a coroner report, something of that nature. There's a little bit of loopholes inside of there. Being the world's greatest detective, you would think he followed up on something like that. But, if this was in fact Gauntlet number 6, this entire story could be a fabrication. This could have been something just to bring them all together. One big giant ploy by Batman. And that is much more believable than Batman just letting somebody fall down a stairwell and never doing a follow-up. And so if we are gonna go with the premise that this was all a setup by Batman to ensure that his Robins are ready for combat without him, I am 100% in. If we are going to assume that Jenny Wren is in fact the quote-unquote Gauntlet Zero, and Batman actually let her fall to her death, then I think it would make for a bad story. But I really think that the writers are letting us know that's not the case. That in fact, Batman set all of this up just to ensure everybody is up to snuff. And that is honestly the most Batman thing that I have ever heard. Absolutely loved all of the artwork throughout this series, loved all of the writing. Definitely I give this an 8 out of 10. This comic is well worth it. You guys definitely need to give it a read. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by hitting the super thanks button. This button will let you donate directly to the channel, and every little bit helps us out. Now, if you can't do that, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you like this video, and until the next breakdown.